A look at these shocking photos. A makeshift cinder block prison hidden inside an Oregon garage. And now a woman's miraculous escape led to a kidnapping case spanning 10 states with potentially more women targeted and the suspect captured in Oregon.
Tonight, the FBI asking for help to find more victims that this man, 29-year-old Nagasi Zuberi, may have preyed on. Investigators say he kidnapped a woman in Seattle before forcing her into that makeshift cell here in Oregon at a home in Klamath Falls.
The FBI says that they are investigating his activities in at least 10 different states, coast to coast, as you see.
According to the FBI, Zuberi has also gone by the names Justin Joshua Haichi, Sakima Zuberi, or Justin Kuwasi. Agents say victims may even know him as just Sakima. This started 2.5 weeks ago on July 15th, when, according to the FBI, Zuberi was looking for a prostitute in Seattle. They say he pretended to be a police officer to arrest the woman, then drove 7 hours south to Klamath Falls, sexually assaulting the woman along the way. When in Klamath Falls, the FBI says she was put in a makeshift cell made of cinder blocks right in the home Zuberi was living in with his wife. The kidnapped woman escaped. But if she didn't, the FBI says they would not be here today and Zuberi would not be in custody.
This was a screen door. She punched it several times to break the welds, ripped the screen down, and she crawled through a small space to get out of that place because she knew something bad was going to happen to her.
The day after the escape, law enforcement officers in Nevada arrested Zuberi in a parking lot when Zuberi was with his wife and two children.
Nothing happened like in that house, like as in anyone living there or he held anyone captive.
And tonight we're learning more about Zuberi, the accused kidnapping suspect, from those who lived next door to him when he lived in a home in Vancouver.
I wasn't surprised. Personally, I wasn't surprised. I knew something's going to go down. It was always something left or right going on that didn't feel right.
Living next door to an accused abductor. Neighbor Mark tells us he was surprised to see FBI agents at his Vancouver home yesterday morning, but not at all shocked when he learned who they were investigating.
For him, it was more like, you know, I'm the man, I'm taking charge. And so when I found out about even like the whole pretending to be a cop, and I'm like, that's not surprising from him, you know, because that's probably he's a con artist.
Like many we've talked to, Mark says he knew the 29-year-old kidnapping suspect, Nagasi Zuberi, under a different name, but says from the moment he moved in, there was trouble, telling us neighbors were forced to call authorities several times after a string of incidents, including stacked trash and aggressive behavior.
Once we started going against his way of life, he started getting aggressive, where it's like, you know, or like showing a gun. He started going on our property and cussing us out.
Get off my property, monitor! Get off my property!
Mark says he and his roommate even began recording Zuberi to show the landlord, who eventually evicted him in May. And Mark isn't the only neighbor who felt unsafe, as another resident filed a temporary anti-harassment order against Zuberi for allegedly sending threatening text messages against him and his family back in March.
It's an unlawful protective order because you haven't proved harassment.
It's a temporary
Where's the
order,
harassment?
and you have a right to be served.
With the FBI linking the suspect to 4 other sexual assault cases, Mark says he hopes no one was harmed while staying in the house next door, telling us he is now replaying moments he witnessed, like the time he saw a young woman in shorts locked out of the home in 30-degree weather.
I'm like, I can take you to a shelter. I'm like, do you want me to call the cops? No, don't call the cops. Like, freaked out. And I'm like, okay, is there something going on inside the house that we need to know about? She's like, I can't tell you guys anything, what's happening. Almost like her life wasn't threatened if she did speak.
During one of the instances where the cops showed up, they had claimed that I had made the police report. And then he had told me later on that, you know, I had used your name because I didn't want the cops to have my name on file.
Was he gone a lot?
Yes. He was gone most of the day, and he would come back during the night. He was what you would call a night owl.
Do you have any idea what he was doing?
No, I don't.
So both of them told me they knew Zuberi by the name Sakima, and he told them he was the owner and landlord and collected their rents. Well, Coin 6 obtained this document from the Homeowners Association showing deputies and firefighters showing up at the house multiple times last December. Court records show the real owner of the house worked to evict Zuberi in April, and one neighbor filed a restraining order against him.
Any funny business with women that you know of?
No, not off top. Me and him, we would hang out and we would talk, and like normal roommates do. But I never saw anything that would really raise suspicions. That's why it's so surprising.
Did you ever see him act strange around women or bring women into the house?
He brought what he called his baby mama, which is, I guess, the woman that he had children with.
And how was their relationship?
It wasn't exactly the best. They fought a lot.
So the former roommates told me that the couple have 2 young boys. One of them told me there were surveillance cameras kind of everywhere in the house.
You showed the homeowner association documents. It looks like they had
I have 'em right
documents,
here.
pictures. You're holding them right there. What possessed them to do that report, the HOA?
So this is pretty extensive. There are 911 logs in here, mostly from last December. There's a lot of pictures about people coming and going from the house. It's clear from this document the HOA thought this house is a problem. It talks about how he was pretending to own the house and collecting rents. So they were gathering evidence.
That suspect has been identified by the FBI as 29-year-old Nagasi Zuberi. The FBI says that woman was able to escape and get help, leading to the arrest of Zuberi. The FBI believes that there are likely other victims.
Nagasi Zuberi has made national headlines after the FBI in Portland alleged he kidnapped a woman in Seattle, sexually assaulted her, drove her to Klamath Falls, and imprisoned her in this makeshift cinder block cell. The FBI says the kidnapping happened in the early hours of Saturday, July 15th. Zuberi's ex-partner says she didn't hear or see anything that night, and that Zuberi told her he was going to Seattle to look at potential rental properties.
So the FBI is alleging all of this happened on July 15th, that Nagasi brought a woman that he kidnapped in Seattle here and imprisoned her. What did you see that day?
Honestly, I went to bed like on Friday night. I was watching TV. I fell asleep on the couch, and then I woke up. I went to the room, and I fell asleep, and then I noticed that he came home, and then he came to the room, and then I was kind of surprised. I was like, "Oh, you're back already?" And then he left, and then I was like, "I'm going back to sleep." So I went back to sleep, and then my kids were in the room, and then I woke up around like maybe 9 o'clock, and then I just asked him for the car key so I can go to Walmart, and then I went to Walmart and came back. And then me and my kids were planning just to go to swimming and stuff. So we didn't get to do that because after everything was going on.
Zuberi's ex-partner says she didn't hear any commotion that night, even though the FBI claims the kidnapping victim escaped from the makeshift cell in the garage by banging so hard on a metal door that she broke through it and ran away on foot. She later flagged down a passing driver for help, was rushed to the hospital, and led authorities to Zuberi's home. When Zuberi's ex-partner returned home from Walmart, law enforcement had already arrived and were questioning a person who sublet a room in the house from them. She says that same person alerted Zuberi to what was happening and found out he had already left town. The woman tells me she met up with Zuberi the next day in Nevada after he asked her to meet him on the road.
He told me he was gonna go to Alabama and then wait until everything settled down to see what's going on.
After they met up, the FBI found the couple outside a Walmart in Reno and arrested Zuberi following a long standoff where agents say he cut himself severely while holding one of his children on his lap and tried to destroy his phone. Zuberi's ex-partner wouldn't share many details about the arrest, other than it was a shock to her and the children, who later made their way back to Klamath Falls on a bus. That same day, Klamath Falls police served a search warrant where they discovered what appears to be a makeshift cinder block cell. Zuberi's ex-partner claims this is a misunderstanding.
This cinder block structure in the wall, or in the garage.
Yes, it's a room. It's not a cinder block. It's a room. They keep saying it's a cinder block. It's a room. He's just trying to expand.
So you're saying he's building out a room. The FBI is saying it was a makeshift prison cell.
That's a lie. It's a lie. He never, ever, like everywhere I know him, Like, he never, ever brings something like, build something like that. All this man is doing is trying to expand subleasing.
Law enforcement also discovered these disturbing notes they allege were written by Zuberi, one page titled Operation Takeover. His ex-partner wouldn't comment specifically on the notes, but says she could never imagine the kidnapping and imprisonment that the FBI alleges took place.
One thing I know, he will never bring nobody to his home where his own kids live, sleep, where he got tenants coming in and out, you know, like his garage right here, wide open.
Zuberi's ex-partner at one point showed us what was in the garage. We didn't see much other than some foam insulation. She told us the structure the FBI alleges was a makeshift prison cell has since been taken down. Through tears, she tells us regardless of what the court proceeded.
No, he helped my kids. He helped me when I need help. He even helped me apply for school. He helped me apply for FAFSA. He helped me get to my feet. Even we didn't get along, but he always helping me. It is sad that he's been accused because that's not who he is. That's not who I had kids with. This is not what the guy that they portray him to be. This is not his legacy. This man have dreams.
Zuberi is now linked to 4 other sexual assaults in 4 separate states. Investigators say without that victim being able to break out of this cinder block dungeon, that suspect would still be out there.
Some cases alarm even the most seasoned investigators.
Wednesday, members of the Oregon FBI, local police, and the Attorney General's office discussed the terrifying details of a kidnapping in Seattle that crossed state lines.
The disturbing evidence uncovered to date points to an individual's ongoing and escalating pattern of violence targeting women in multiple states throughout the country.
Investigators say 29-year-old Nagasi Zuberi drove about 7 hours north from his home to Seattle, Washington. On Aurora Avenue, documents say Zuberi picked up a woman for sex, then pretended to be a cop, pointing a taser at the victim and kidnapping her. Along the 460-mile drive back to his home in Klamath Falls, Oregon, documents say Zuberi raped the woman. Investigators describe Zuberi's home like something out of a horror movie.
They discovered a makeshift cinder block cell with a metal door and a singular light bulb above for light.
These are pictures of that cell. Investigators say in the face of a nightmare, somehow the victim found strength to fight back.
She realized that she needed to get out of that residence because her life was in danger. And she took the substantial steps to force her way out of that cell. And then she ran out into public, flagged down the first vehicle she could find. And then she was taken to safety. Then 911 was called.
At the home, police found evidence, including this note, seemingly showing the detailed plans for this crime. Reading, Operation Takeover, leave phone at home. Make sure they don't have a bunch of people in their life. You don't want an investigation. Once Zuberi realized the victim had escaped, it appears he fled with his family, making it all the way to Reno, Nevada, more than 250 miles from his home, where police caught up to him in a Walmart parking lot the next day. Following a 45-minute standoff, police arrested Zuberi. He faces 1 count of interstate kidnapping.
That charge carries with it a maximum sentence of up to life in federal prison.
The victim, if she didn't do what she did, we wouldn't be here today, and Mrs. Zuberi would not be in custody.
True. If not for these disturbing photos the FBI released of the homemade cinder block cell a Seattle woman was held captive in for hours.
The woman fought for her life, beating the doors and the walls of this cell with bloodied hands.
Authorities say the woman was working as a prostitute on Aurora Avenue when 29-year-old Nagasi Zuberi claimed to be an undercover police officer and showed the victim a badge, telling her he needed to take her into custody to be processed. Court documents say he also pointed a black and yellow taser and placed her in handcuffs and leg irons, then took her more than 450 miles away to his home in Klamath Falls, Oregon, sexually assaulting her along the roughly 8-hour drive. The woman was placed in a cell in the garage made of cinder blocks and a metal door installed in reverse so it could not be opened from the inside.
Because of her ability and her survival mindset, this was a screen door. She punched it several times to break the welds, ripped the screen down, and she crawled through a small space to get out of that place because she knew something bad was going to happen to her.
Breaking free and flagging down a driver to call 911.
Authorities found the home, questioned Zubari's wife, and eventually tracked Zubari down the next day in Reno, Nevada, where he was taken into custody after a 45-minute standoff in a busy shopping center parking lot.
There is escalation of violence and intent, and so we are concerned that if we work backwards, we're going to find, unfortunately, numerous victims.
This Clark County home right by Prairie High School is where Negassi Zuberi lived from summer 2022 to spring 2023. Neighbors tell us they had a bad feeling about the 29-year-old, and that includes Danny Bratzkoff.
He did make some threats towards me that he was going to stab me or kill me if he catches me outside somewhere.
Get off my property. Get off my property.
Bratzkoff says this cell phone video he shot is proof of Zuberi's bizarre behavior.
That night that he was yelling at me, he literally looked like a killer. Literally, his eyes were just, it was actually scary.
I stayed away because I knew he was a hothead.
This woman did not want to share her name, but she also lived near Zuberi. She wasn't aware of what he did for a living, only that he made some cash by breeding and selling pit bulls, about 10 of them, and subleasing space in his house.
Like, he was subleasing every single space that you could possibly, like literally the living room, I think they had like a little open area when you come up the stairs, kind of like a loft area. He was subleasing that. There were beds there. Like, it was weird. There was a lot of different people.
While it may have been weird, it pales in comparison to what the FBI revealed about Zuberi on Wednesday. Federal agents say in mid-July he solicited a woman for sex in Seattle, then told her he was an undercover cop and she was under arrest. Zuberi then shackled the woman and drove her 450 miles south to his new home in Klamath Falls, sexually assaulting her along the way. Inside the garage of this home Zuberi was renting, from the mayor of Klamath Falls of all people, he's accused of locking the woman up in a cinder block cell. Within hours of the woman's daring escape, police captured Zuberi in Nevada, one of the 10 states he's called home in the last 10 years. And since his arrest, detectives have tied Zuberi to 3 more sexual assaults in 3 of those states. And they fear there could be even more victims. And perhaps that explains why the FBI paid Bratzkoff and his roommates a visit earlier this week.
There was multiple victims. There was multiple girls that they showed pictures of to us, and they were asking us if we knew about these people or these girls. We obviously didn't know any of them.
What Bratzkoff and other neighbors do recall is seeing a young woman crying outside Zuberi's Vancouver home months ago when he still lived there.
My husband's like, do you want us to call the cops? Like, do you need help? Do you want some tea? Like, it's freezing out here. And she's like, no, I'm not going to tell you what he did to me. She said those exact words.
Words that now haunt Zuberi's old neighbors, who are relieved he's off the streets and behind bars.
So I'm so happy that he's gone, and hopefully it's going to be for a while.
Disturbing photos just released by the FBI show what appears to be a makeshift cinder block cell in the garage of this unassuming house in Klamath Falls. In the FBI's criminal complaint, it states law enforcement obtained a search warrant for the house on July 16th. Lee Ashford, who lives just a block away, says at the time he and other neighbors didn't know what was happening.
We didn't know if it was FBI or state police or what, but they were here pretty much all day. And it just, obviously something was going on. It was, we speculated along with everybody else we talked to, but didn't really know anything.
Ashford says he believes Zuberi had been living there for a short time and says there was zero indication there were any issues.
But stuff happens everywhere, behind closed doors. Who knows what's going on?